Wow. We've got, once again, some very, very, very interesting poll news to discuss today. I mean, he just keeps climbing and climbing and climbing. And I'm just going to say this. Some people are getting really anxious. Really, really anxious in the White House. Welcome, everyone, to the big show. I am Trish Regan. This is the Trish Regan Show. It's good to have you. If you haven't subscribed, do me the favor. Make sure you subscribe, you share, you like. We are live, which means careful what you say on the live chat. Okay, we're live on YouTube. Everybody, come right over here. It's good to have you, as always. We have a ton of news to get through. And I have a little bit of a warning here, too, because I'm getting concerned about some of the security issues that are out front and center right now as we see Donald Trump climbing yet again in the polls. So let's start first with the good news, shall we? I mean, we talked yesterday about the amazing stuff coming out of Gallup. Great track record there. In other words, if people are frustrated with the economy, they tend to vote the incumbent or the party out. In this case, you kind of have both, right? Because she's the VP and it's the Democrat Party. On top of that, you had CNN, really, really slim there. But then all of a sudden, we got Quinnipiac. And take a peek, guys, at Quinnipiac, because this is really something to see. 48 to 47. Donald Trump, 48. Harris, 47. So this is rather remarkable. I mean, I got to just say, so Quinnipiac, if you think about where Biden was at the same point in the race, well, I've got the numbers. We can go to them right here. So this is Trump versus Harris, as we just discussed, 1 point spread difference. As I told you, there's this new wrinkle in how pollsters gather their information. It turns out that they're actually asking people if it's okay if you're on a recorded line, and the best pollsters, they all want to have these recorded lines so that they can keep the data fresh and accurate. Well, a lot of people that might vote for Donald Trump don't really want to be on a recorded line, you know, with big data and AI and this, that, and the other these days. So you wonder sometimes how accurate these polls really are. Trump ahead by 1 point. I suspect it's more than that. Then you see Quinnipiac 2020. So go back almost 4 years, you had at this same point in time a huge difference, a huge spread difference between Biden and Trump. And remember, that was a close election. Okay, 2020 was super close. So if Biden was 10 points ahead back then versus Trump, and Harris is 1 point behind right now versus Trump, then you understand, right? Why it could actually be Donald Trump winning in a landslide. And I mean a massive red landslide. You know what these new polls tell you? These new polls tell you that they probably never should have picked Kamala Harris in the first place. Yeah, the Democrats made a little bit of an error on that one. You see, as I said all along, they should have actually had an open contest. Biden should have graciously said, you know what, I'm going to step aside and I am going to allow the next generation to come up front and center. And then you could have actually had a contest and they could have found themselves somebody to be at the top of the ticket instead of having to scrounge around last minute for one of Obama's picks. And I'm assuming it's an Obama pick because she never should have been vice president to begin with. Remember how she attacked Joe Biden up one side and down the other? I remember that vividly. I bet you Dr. Jill remembers that. I don't know. Biden remembers it, he himself, Joe Biden, because I'm not sure that he remembers anything, right? I mean, he's up there. And then some. And so how did she become vice president? Ask yourself that. Somebody wanted her. And I guess this same team of people wanted her all over again because she does not have strong enough numbers. She is not the kind of candidate that can actually get elected. In fact, her performance was so bad back in 2020 against Joe Biden and the rest of them that she was out right after New Hampshire, where she came in last. And you think she's going to beat Donald Trump? You know, they thought they had an in with Hispanics. Turns out Hispanics don't like her either. This is the latest and greatest, as I said, out of Quinnipiac. This is coming out September 24th. And what do you see? 52% of Hispanics nationwide plan to vote for Donald Trump versus 44% of Hispanics voting for Harris. So there goes that one. I mean, they thought they could, give a song and a dance and a hope and a prayer, and maybe Hispanics would actually vote for them. But you see, guys, it's actually a little bit more complicated than that. It turns out Hispanics really don't like the idea of having lots of people illegally in their communities, because guess what it does? It actually puts them in jeopardy. It's very easy, when you live in your fancy schmancy house with your car and your driver and your fancy schmancy alarm system and security gates and the rest of it. It is very easy to say, oh, well, we're going to bring everybody in. We want to be really, really accepting. I mean, that's been her platform forever. In fact, I was just looking at some video the other day of her chanting about getting rid of this decriminalization, or she wants a decriminalization because it can never be illegal to be here. You cannot be an illegal citizen. Well, that would be an oxymoron, right? Because if you're here illegally, you're definitely not a citizen. Anyway, decriminalizing illegal crossing of the southern border, that was so important to her. So funny enough, it was almost as though it was sort of like a sweet justice move from Joe Biden. Think about it, when he gave her the title of border czar. She was supposed to fix the border. Well, she didn't want to fix the border because, you know what? She doesn't actually believe in a border. Well, what do you know? It turns out that's one of the biggest issues in this campaign, and people don't trust her on the border, and they don't trust her on the economy, and they don't trust her on the international front. So yeah, lo and behold, you're seeing some scary numbers out of Quinnipiac. You look at the Hispanics not liking Kamala Harris. That's not going to go over well. You got the New York Times that came out just the other day pretty much telling us what we're seeing there in Quinnipiac. They too say that, you know what? Trump is going to take the Sun Belt, ladies and gentlemen. Well, what's that all going to add up to? We've got some new numbers I want to show you out of Polymarket, as well as some additional poll stuff. But first, quick shout out for our friends over at American Hartford Gold, because this is quite a deal. $15,000 you can get right now in free silver if you use my name. Apparently the Trish name goes pretty far. Just say Trish when you call 1-844-495-1115, or you can text Trish, my name, to 65532. The number 65532. Text my name, Trish. Or go to this website. I actually put it in the show notes for you. TrishLovesGold. I do. .com. TrishLovesGold.com. One of these days I'm going to have to wear like one of my gold dresses when I'm doing this show and doing this commercial, right? And it'll all kind of fit together. Anyway, I recently, I think I told you guys this, I recently actually did buy some more gold. I'm just checking on gold prices as we speak right now, because you've got a market that's actually off today. I'm looking at the Dow Jones Industrial Average, about 0.6% off. I got the S&P down 0.2%. NASDAQ trading pretty much flat. But as I look at gold, this is one of the safe haven plays, but it doesn't, it's not always perfect the way it works out. I mean, gold has actually rallied tremendously, and it's super exciting to see that. I'm looking at it today. It looks like people are seeking that safe haven, up 0.3%, $2,685.20 an ounce. Good thing I bought some the other day, right? Anyway, go check it out there at TrishLovesGold.com. But I want to get back to these numbers, because this is amazing. We now got Quinnipiac. We've got CNN showing a razor thin race there. Quinnipiac has him winning. Don't forget, Quinnipiac's, it's like one of those quote unquote accurate polls, and they had Joe Biden winning with a spread there of some 10 points last time around. Well, then you go over to Rasmussen, and we talked about this briefly, but Rasmussen also really showing some incredible stuff here. This is as we look at, say, some of the recent polling out of Arizona and Georgia. This echoes, if you would, what the New York Times was saying. But there's more here, because some of this Rasmussen stuff, actually, when you look at it overall, let me see if I have this one chart for you, because you can actually see that he's been hovering sort of in this range where he's continually beating her. And I just think that's amazing. I mean, they went through all this trouble of unseating Joe, who, by the way, says, oh, no big deal. It's all fine.
Because of my presidency, this summer, I faced a decision whether to seek a second term as president. It was a difficult decision. Being president has been the honor of my life. There's so much more I want to get done. As much as I love the job, I love my country more. I decided after 50 years of public service, it's time for a new generation of leadership to take my nation forward. My fellow leaders, let us never forget Some things are more important than staying in power. It's your people.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. We don't buy that. We don't buy that at all. So they took him out. And now we've got Quinnipiac showing Donald Trump ahead, and we've got Rasmussen showing him several points ahead. And I'm telling you, like, this is presenting just so many different paths and opportunities to 270 for Donald Trump. Well, Kamala Harris is going to be likely to have one. If he takes Pennsylvania, I'm telling you, it's game over, game over, game over. I want to go over to Polymarket. So Polymarket is one of these prediction sites that I like to look at because, hey, you know what? I'm a financial person, so I like to see when there's money on the line. There's a different calculation, if you would. It's one thing to tell a pollster on a recorded line, right, who you're going to vote for. But it's another thing to anonymously, and this is actually kind of anonymous because this is using Ethereum technology, blockchain technology, if you would, to cryptos, to bet on who you think is going to win the presidency. So it's a very interesting market, and it's a very nimble market. And when I say it's nimble, I want to show you the difference in what I'm looking at here, because I checked Polymarket with you guys yesterday, and what you actually saw was a larger spread. That spread has started to narrow, as I predicted it would, because people are realizing, you know what, this guy actually could be the next president of the United States. So yesterday you had some 2 or 3 points spread between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. Today, what do you know? It's narrowed. You're looking at Kamala at 50, Donald Trump at 49, clearly reflecting the intensity and the closeness of this race. But I wouldn't be surprised if by tomorrow this starts to turn again and you see those numbers flip. Again, these are people putting real money, and there's there's a lot of money, right? You see the numbers at the top. You can go check this out anytime. It's open 24/7. So for insomniacs, you're all set. And as I said, it's a crypto technology that's powering this. Is just really, really cool. A whole other separate conversation that we can have at some point, because I do like this. But if you want to go check them out, it's Polymarket, polymarket.com. One of the other things I was looking at here is just what their expectation is. The betting markets, not Polymarkets, right? This is not pollsters. This is just prediction markets. And they have an expectation that the balance of power is actually going. 28% of people believe a Republican sweep versus 21% saying a Democrat sweep. So again, everything is super close, but I think this is very much an opportunity for him right now. The betting markets are showing us this. The actual polls are showing us this, and many prediction models are showing it too. Let me go over to CNN, because there's one issue that I don't want to give it away, that this election really is all about, and it's the economy, right? So take a peek. It's got to kill CNN to say this, I'm telling you.
On issue number one, you mentioned Donald Trump going down to Georgia today. Take a look at Trump's advantage on the economy. 50% of likely voters say they trust him to handle the economy more than Harris. Only 39% of likely voters say so of Harris, again, on issue number one.
I mean, it is really stunning if you think about these numbers. 20% more of voters say that they are worried about the economy, and that's their number one issue more than anybody else. And look at his lead on this.
Yeah, he's got a lead. So this is their poll, right? So CNN did this poll, and like I said, it's going to kill him to actually talk about this, because they're in this really, really tight race. It's not an easy headline for the people over at CNN to write, and then, of course, for them to have to talk about how he's way ahead as far as the economy goes. Well, guess what? When the economy's not doing so well, when people are really feeling the pain of inflation, then that's actually going to have a pretty big effect on things. It affects their sentiment. We got consumer confidence numbers in yesterday that were really, really bad. When your consumer sentiment, your consumer confidence is that bad, when you get lousy manufacturing data month after month after month, you wonder why. You wonder why the Teamsters are actually coming out saying, here we go, take a look at this one, that 60% of them are voting for Donald Trump over Kamala Harris. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. If anyone in the Democrat Party had any sensibility at all, I'm telling you, you know what they would have done? they would have done ages ago. They never would have approved that so-called Inflation Reduction Act with a whole bunch of boondoggle programs going absolutely nowhere. You know, Senator Thane was actually out talking about this and just yesterday. And I think this is important to see because he's making the point that, you know what, there's a whole bunch of money that's still sitting on the sidelines. Before Kamala Harris was actually the border czar, guess what, ladies and gentlemen, she was the broadband czar. And she was supposed to put all this money to work. And nothing has been spent. So you tell me if this woman knows what she's doing. Let's listen.
Well, we have spoken at length about the vice president's role as the border czar, but we also need to talk a little bit about her role as the broadband czar. Because 3 years ago, the president directed Vice President Harris to be in charge of ensuring that the $42 billion that was authorized 3 years ago actually got out to serve underserved areas, hook up people who don't have broadband to broadband service. That was 1,043 days ago. $42 billion. Not a single dollar has been spent. Not a single person has been connected to broadband service under this program, under the watch and supervision of the so-called broadband czar, Vice President Kamala Harris. And so as yet another example of the failure of this administration, their inability to do basic things. And one of the reasons they didn't get people hooked up, and none of the money has yet been spent, is because of all the onerous and burdensome restrictions and regulations and requirements and mandates they imposed on the use of the funds. I can tell you in the state of South Dakota, we don't have a single telecom out there that's been able to use any of this because they make it so hard to qualify for. You got to meet all their climate requirements. You got to meet all their DEI requirements. You have to meet all their requirements to use union workers, which in right-to-work states it makes it very, very difficult. So this is just yet another example of this administration's failure. Since this president and vice president took office, there have been 1,000 regulations that have cost $1.7 trillion. That's $1.7 trillion taken out of the economy, and that's over 5 times what the Obama administration's cost of regulations was. So, and they weren't exactly known as being, you know, an administration that was willing or ready to cut red tape. So again, just another example of this administration's failure, their inefficiency, their management, and their inability to do the basic things of governing well. And I can't help but think what if Vice President Harris is successful, what the next 4 years could look like if she takes her record as broadband czar and border czar to running the whole of government.
I mean, in other words, what he's telling you there is that the woman is totally incompetent. She's actually not able to do her job. I don't know what she does. I mean, we don't even see her out campaigning. We don't see her doing any media. Apparently, she's just agreed to do whoop-de-doo interview with MSNBC with a sycophant over there, shall we say, of a reporter. We're going to get to that in just a moment. But in other words, this woman's not a real journalist. And let's be very, very forthcoming. MSNBC is not a real network. I mean, none of the networks, frankly, are real networks. If you want real news, you come right here. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to have you all here. I just want to put up the subscribe button so you can remember to do that. It is really important that you subscribe and that you help me spread the word. We are here every single day live. It is great to see so many familiar faces. I'm going to get out to comments later on in the program. So stay tuned for all of that. But again, if you're just joining us right now, we were talking about these amazing poll numbers. Quinnipiac showing quite a difference, at least from 2020. And we know how close 2020 was. Biden, Trump back then, seeing a 10-point spread difference. Well, what do you know? Right now, Trump's ahead. Biden's not ahead like he was back then, up 10. Trump's ahead by 1 point. So this is something that really and truly I think is terrifying, honestly terrifying. Those in the White House right now, terrifying so many on the left. And it's why you're starting to see a little bit of crazy stuff. I mean, just a little bit of crazy stuff from the likes of, well, one Commerce Secretary. Have you seen our Commerce Secretary, guys? Because this is a comment that, under the circumstances, given the increased security measures needed around Donald Trump and his life after 2 attempts on it, it's really sort of gross and disgusting for anyone to talk the way this woman just did. And yet we had to hear from Gina Raimondi, the Commerce Secretary, who one day didn't even understand when it was reported to her that we'd have lost a whole lot more jobs than anyone anticipated. And she was presented with the Labor Department's own report, and she started to try and say it was fake. And that Trump had made it up. I mean, this woman is not playing with a full deck. So maybe we can excuse what she said and say she's just dumb and she is not precise with her verbiage. Or maybe we can say she knows exactly what she's doing. Let's listen to our Commerce Secretary say something extreme, something violent, something truly, truly unacceptable.
He says is the opposite. It's just another lie. Like, how did we get here? Let's extinguish him for good. We have an answer. We have a remarkably talented candidate who is sincere, who's pragmatic, who's open. Let's just get it done.
Let's extinguish him? Let's get it done? Seriously? I mean, Gina. Okay, we get it. You don't like Donald Trump. That gravy train maybe is not going to keep going for all these woke idiots that are employing all kinds of disastrous things for our economy, inflationary, and clearly not productive, as you just heard from Senator Thane. So Gina doesn't like him, but what's going on here? Because James Carville went on to a program over on CNN and had something rather disturbing, I'm going to say that, disturbing to say, when he sat down with the anchor. James Carville is suggesting there's going to be a plot twist ahead of November. And then a sprint to the finish. Let me show you. Here we are. He said, something tells me something else is going to happen. I don't know what it is, but we've got 42 days to go, 6 weeks. This is a sprint to the finish. I think there's another plot twist in here coming. Wow. So what does he mean by that? Does he know what he means by that? I'm a little concerned in light of some things that have just been made public. Let me share one of them with you right here. So Donald Trump sending this out on Truth Social. Big threats on my life by Iran. The entire U.S. military is watching and waiting. Moves were already made by Iran that didn't work out, but they will try again. Not a good situation for anyone. I am surrounded by more men, guns, and weapons than I have ever seen before. Thank you to Congress for unanimously approving far more money to Secret Service. 0 no votes, strictly bipartisan. Nice to see Republicans and Democrats get together on something. An attack on a former president is a death wish for the attacker. Okay, so a little bit of bravado there at the end. But this is kind of concerning, guys. It's kind of concerning, especially in light of some things that we've seen in the past. In 2022, the Ayatollah in Iran put up a video on his website. And in this video, you actually see some little tiny AI vehicle, this AI vehicle trying to hunt down Donald Trump on a golf course. It's actually sort of, in Mar-a-Lago, it's actually sort of weird in light of what just transpired on the golf course.
On issue number 1, you mentioned Donald Trump going down to Georgia today. Take a look at Trump's...
Forgive me, I'm actually trying to give you some of these pictures here. Let's see if we can get them in, just sent into me from this particular... there we go. Okay, so this is from the video. Soleimani's murderer and the one who gave the order will pay the price. And this is a video that basically... is taking place outside Mar-a-Lago. They have a target on Trump. He's on the golf course. You've got this little AI vehicle that's running around because it's going to theoretically attack the president there. I mean, just horrible, horrible, horrible stuff. And obviously, in light of the concerns, here we are with some more pictures of this about Trump's security right now. I think that we have to be a little bit more mindful And so I go back to why on earth would Gina Raimondo, the Commerce Secretary of the United States of America, say we need to extinguish him? You know, we need to be done with this. We need to extinguish him. I mean, it is so wildly gross, wildly inappropriate, ladies and gentlemen, that America should demand some answers on that. Look, I'm glad that they're giving him more security, but I sort of question it. I mean, you have, for example, whistleblowers that have been coming forward saying, look, you know, he was not given the proper security, and he's still not getting the proper security. He needs a lot of security in light of everything that's happening right now, whether it be lefty nuts that want to go after him or whether it be Iran. I mean, that is quite something what he just put out there on Truth Social. So he's under attack there. You got James Carville predicting some kind of election plot twist. You've got Gina Raimondo sending out some kind of dog whistle of some sort, right? Like, I mean, she may be dumb. She may be imprecise, but I think that's being too generous. I actually think that was somewhat deliberate. And I don't understand why they would do that. I mean, I don't understand a lot of things here, but one thing Democrats do understand is that they are way behind in these polls. And they're so far behind that they're going to have to do something to try and turn things around. So what do? You go find a really cozy, nice journalist who's going to hopefully make you look good. Maybe not as good as Oprah could make you look, but hopefully more than 300,000 people will tune into this one. I can't make any promises. It is MSNBC after all. But Kamala Harris has decided to sit down with a journalist at MSNBC. And I say journalist because this particular reporter actually didn't grow up in the world of journalism at all. She was a salesperson on Wall Street. Why did I start 76 Research? Why, ladies and gentlemen? So we could get away from those salespeople on Wall Street. You know what? We don't want to be sold anything, whether it be by some MSNBC reporter who just became a reporter and used to be a Wall Street salesperson or anyone else. I'm trying to find the logo so we can put that up for you guys to go over to 76research.com, 76research.com, and get the 76 report. You can also get all the more portfolios. You can get the founders package, which is the best deal. Get the founders package if you're really looking to really expand your horizon and understandings of portfolios. And there's 10 to 15 stocks in each and every one. I'm not a salesperson. You see, you go and buy those stocks. I make no money on it. And by the way, we're offering the 76 report for $1 a month with code word $. Cancel anytime, goes to $9.95 thereafter. But you're getting all this information for one set fee. This journalist, in quotations, over at MSNBC was actually a salesperson at Deutsche Bank. And, you know, just saying, all right? So she's not coming with maybe the same code of ethics that somebody who actually has worked, well, not that we can say, you know what, I think that journalists should have a code of ethics. I have a code of ethics. Unfortunately, those in my profession just don't. They just don't. And they make favors and they make trades and they say, I promise you I won't ask you about that. But I am going to ask you about that. And then in telling them I'm going to ask you about that, guess what? You're feeding them the question. So I guarantee you that there's a little backroom Wall Street action going on here. And you've got this reporter who is going to sit down with Kamala Harris and ask her a bunch of questions. You see, that's how you know they were so scared. They were so nervous. They were like, oh my gosh, look at these polls. You got Quinnipiac. You got New York Times Siena. You've got Polymarket. You've got all of them coming out once again in favor of Donald Trump. In CNN, they got a 1-point spread difference. And as I've told you, if you're losing by 1 point to Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, you're actually really losing. So maybe they can salvage the situation by doing an interview with an ex-Wall Streeter turned MSNBC host. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck. You know, she ought to be able to ask her some questions on the economy. Again, I'm sort of doubtful that it's going to happen. I suspect that there was some sort of quid pro quo that was going on. Well, I'll do this, I'll do that. And, you don't have to worry about that. But there's a lot of questions that I would have, certainly, for Kamala Harris on the economic front. They're multiple. I mean, fundamentally, I do want to understand, is this woman really and truly the socialist communist that she presents herself to be? Kind of feels like that. $25,000 for every single new home owner out there. Here you go. Step up. One and all. I'm going to give you $25K and I'm going to drive home prices right through the roof so nobody else who doesn't get that $25K or any other kind of government stimulus is going to get anything, right? That's going to make it harder and harder and harder and harder for new people to get into the housing market, just like it happened in education. You know what it's costing right now? Somebody told me Georgetown, $90K all in, for room and board and for the school itself. I tell you, state schools are looking really promising. Really, really, really promising. Unbelievable. I mean, so you're going to plank down some, nearly $500,000 for an education and God knows what, so you can get a job as a barista or as a waitress somewhere. By the way, nothing wrong with those jobs, okay? But you shouldn't be going into debt, $500,000 for one of them. College is just not what it used to be. Just not what it used to be. And that's in part because of people like Kamala Harris, who had 2 professors for parents. One was a Stanford University economics professor, a quasi-communist. The other was a McGill University. That's like the Harvard of Canada. If Canada has a Harvard. Sorry for all my Canadian friends and viewers out there watching, and we have a few of them. Anyway, McGill's like the Harvard of Canada. And so her mom's like some professor there. She's, I grew up in a middle-class background. Yeah, right. Okay, you grew up in an academia background. That's very, very different, even than a middle class. Middle-class background is like, a dad who goes to work in the factory, the mom that stays home, well, no, those were the old days. What are you saying, Trish? Because everybody's got two working members of a family these days, because that's what it takes, because we have so much inflation. So what I'd like to see this MSNBC reporter ask is a whole lot of questions about inflation. Push her hard. You want $25,000 for each new home buyer? Are you kidding me? Tell me how that's going to work out. Know the numbers, lady from MSNBC. Get your sales team to figure out those numbers and figure out how it actually works out. How is that ever going to help people afford new homes? It just means for the person coming up from behind, they're going to have to pay that much more for the home. You're going to drive more inflation, just like you drove it into college education prices, just like you drove it into healthcare prices. This is a bad recipe for America, a really, really bad recipe. And then while we're at it, can we talk about reparations? I mean, you're unknown, Kamala Harris, on the reparations thing. Or what about Medicare for all? Because you've been flip-flopping on that one all over the place. How about that federal jobs guarantee? She wanted that, believe it or not. And then there's the decriminalization of prostitution. Woohoo. That came up recently the other day. She used to say she was all for it. Now she won't say. And importantly, especially for Pennsylvania, fracking. She was against it, vehemently against it. But now she's all for it. Because, apparently those votes in Pennsylvania, they mean something. Banning plastic straws. She's flip-flopped on that one. It's not the most important one, but I think it speaks to the lack of authenticity that we get on any given day from Kamala Harris. I'm not so sure that she really knows what she thinks herself. And maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe she's got to have, Obama in her ear telling her what to do and what to think and what to say in order to actually do anything. The reporter that she's sitting down with is a Trump hater, has actually, as recently as this week, been on record saying that it doesn't matter how bad Kamala Harris and all of her policies are. It doesn't matter what it would mean for the economy. The alternative is so much worse. Wow. And that's somebody who used to work on Wall Street. Anyway, I will be looking forward to seeing parts of this interview and bringing them to you guys tomorrow so we can tear apart and look at how bad it was. Why is it that it took so long, by the way, for Kamala Harris to come around and finally do an interview? I wonder. We have so much more to get to. But before I jump forward, I just want to give a quick shout out for our friends over at Balance in Nature, because you know that I've taken this gosh, for a while now. Like maybe since the beginning of last year, I've been taking Balance in Nature, and I feel great. Hopefully I look okay too, right? Thank you. That was I guess a gratuitous ask for compliments, but I really do like Balance in Nature. I think it's actually just something that's been able to help me tremendously in terms of preserving my overall health. And it's important during like this kind of season, because as you deal with these weather changes, then you can certainly see that we are all more at risk. They have a great program right now. I personally take the fruits and veggies, and you can take them or any of their other products. Just go to their website, check it out. They've been in business for like 20 years, and there's all kinds of testimonials on there. You're hearing my testimonial, for example, but just lots and lots and lots of other people that really feel better thanks to Balance of Nature. So go to balanceofnature.com. Use my code Trish, TRISH. You can call them at 1-800-246-8751 with code Trish. You are going to get 35% off. Okay. So like, don't do any of the other offers. If you see a 20% out there, do not do it. Make sure you do the 35% off and free shipping. Free shipping. Okay. So you can get your fruits and veggies delivered. This is a vitamin supplement, by the way, straight to your house for anybody who's wondering. Balance in Nature there. Take a look. Go give them a ring at 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and type in code word Trish. I do think though, in light of the threats that we're struggling with in terms of Iran, I think it's kind of frightening that Carville's saying what he's saying, that Gina Raimondo is saying what he's saying, that the MSNBC people are always saying what they're saying. And I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried for all of this. I think that Donald Trump, he's a brave guy. It's almost like he just doesn't care. I mean, you saw him out there yesterday. Did you see him in the grocery store? I said this is like a whole new form of campaigning. I couldn't believe how upset some people got, though, at the grocery store, because apparently you're not allowed to, do anything nice for people anymore. So Donald Trump went to the grocery store and he talked about inflation with people. I think it's kind of a new style of campaigning, and it's quite clever, but the Democrats immediately pounced on him all over Twitter. I couldn't believe this last night because I had just shown you this clip. They're all over him saying, this is illegal. He needs to be sued. He's actually violating campaign law. Here we go again. Because he bought some people's groceries, which they said was like buying votes. I mean, wow. Okay, here we are.
The people right here that are paying 30, 40, 50% more for their groceries, which I think I can say is right. Yeah, that's correct. It's a disgrace. Because of what I do, I haven't been in these stores in a long time. Oh, look, I got to get some of this. We got to get it. If you have anything left over, just take it as tips, okay? You guys take it, give it to the rest of the store. Make sure you get out and vote. We will. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, so do you see a problem with that? I'm guessing you probably like Trump more than you like Kamala if you're watching my show, so maybe you don't. Although I don't see a problem with that. I don't see any problem with that. And so, he's like, hey, and keep the rest for tips. So they're bonkers all over Twitter. Well, you know what they're really bonkers about? They're bonkers that he's just a better, more natural campaigner. He interacts with people quite naturally. He loves the camera. He loves the people. And, Kamala can't do that. No, they had to tape that commercial that she was working on in the convenience store like a zillion times, a zillion different ways. And there was no one else around her, right? She didn't have to interact with anyone other than her hubby and Timmy boy. So she's flipping out. She's kind of losing it right now, losing it so much that she's finally agreed to sit down with the MSNBC entertainer? Is that salesperson? Let's go with salesperson. All right. And here's another one that's coming up in the works, ladies and gentlemen. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are going to be doing this little town hall. And they're going to do dueling town hall. So this is actually kind of exciting to see. It's going to be on Televisa Univision. I speak Spanish. And it's going to be on different nights. So they're not having a formal debate, but they are trying to get the message out to Hispanics. And we're going to see how each of these candidates are received there. Again, it's going to be done in Spanish. Well, not necessarily. It's a network that is in Spanish, and maybe they'll be translating in real time. We'll see. But think about it. Dueling town halls. Which one do you think is going to rate better? I want to see in your comments, right? Which one do you really think is going to win the day? Is it going to be Kamala Harris's town hall, or is it going to be Donald Trump's? Now, this is not who's going to win the election. This is just who do you think is going to win the dueling town hall? You can put your comments below too. If you're not watching the live feed, make sure that you sign up, you subscribe, and you hit the bell so that you actually know when we're here live every single day. But I'm curious. I always go back and read your comments too, so I'll see them there. But yes, you know what? Peace of mind. I agree with you. I think that he absolutely will win this one. I mean, for sure. And part of the, and that's just ratings, okay? We'll talk about, I see Dog Obedience talking about the Gallup poll. Yes, the Gallup poll was amazing. And I think that Gallup poll has a really, really good history and track record of being right. And right now the advantage goes to the Republicans. But just in terms of ratings alone, nobody wants to watch Kamala. It's not interesting. She's kind of mean, and then she giggles a lot. And she just laughs, and you're like, oh, what? Is there like something else going on? Right? I mean, there's a lot of laughs. Maybe it's a nervous tick. We're going to go with that. We're going to be generous. Okay. So, I think that you guys, it's going to be a no-brainer. Good. Yeah. Yes. I Moon at Noon saying, I gotcha, that it's going to be actually the network, Televisa Universal, that will win after all, right? Moon at Noon, I gotcha. Seth pointing out that RFK and Tulsi have joined the cause and that has made a difference. I think it has made a difference. When I look at independent voters right now, it is clear that independents are coming along. And part of that may be because you have the RFKs and the Tulsis of the world getting in there. Indeed. Anyway, the media can't quite understand why this is all happening, you see. They're just like, wait a second, didn't we do enough? Didn't we tell you how bad this guy was? Like, why on earth would Kamala Harris ever be not coming out ahead? She should just be the whole thing, right? That's sort of how the media feels. I got to show you a clip of something that just came to us out of MSNBC because they're a little shocked that nobody really understands what went down on J6. And it's sort of funny. But before I do, just another shout out to our friends over at let's see. We've got our friends over at, we did Balance in Nature, right? This is my own 76 Research, right? 76 Research. I'm so proud of this because our stock portfolio has beaten the S&P. This is a particular chart from the last quarter. We're going to be giving you more information on the month, but it looks like, again, we're once again ahead. But you've got, this is the income builder portfolio. Stock 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 26, 22, 20, 19, 16%. These are the top 5 holdings there. Overall, the income builder portfolio at 76 Research up 15%. Versus the S&P trading up just 6%. So that's rather remarkable, don't you think? Income Builder portfolio includes just a lot of good, solid American companies that are going to be positioned for growth in the future. And there's a gold play too. You know that I like gold, right? American Hartford Gold is who I recommend, up to $15,000 in free silver. And that's primarily why I want you to make sure you get that offer, up to $15,000 in free silver for qualifying offers. Just text Trish to 65532. If you have your cell phone handy, text Trish to 65532. Call them at 1-844-495-1115. Again, 1-844-495-1115. And then Trish loves gold. I mean, who can forget that? TrishLovesGold.com. Go to TrishLovesGold.com and get some more information on how you can get up to $15,000 in free silver. We were just talking about gold prices in the market today. You can see that gold is once again trading, ladies and gentlemen, trading higher. Look, I try not.
He says is the opposite. It's just
steer you wrong. So one other bit of sound I want to share with you today because this was rather concerning, and just well, not for me. It's concerning for those journalists out there that spent so much time and effort trying to convince Americans that Donald Trump really and truly was the enemy, like just awful person, and it was all because of J6, right? Well, this is kind of a rude awakening that they're getting, a very rude awakening. One of the MSNBC reporters went and did this little meeting with union workers, and you know where union workers are. 60% of the Teamsters say they are voting for Donald Trump. Well, this reporter's a little frustrated because apparently they weren't listening to her over on MSNBC during those days after January 6th.
Talk to me about your level of interest in the criminal charges and so forth.
February 6th?
January 6th.
So I remember that day. I know he was the standing president. I'm not familiar with the charges that are being brought against him for that. I'm not following that charge or I know there's multiple court cases going on. I'm just not familiar with it.
I mean, that doesn't sound like it's going to be a factor in deciding who to vote for.
No.
Okay, so when I say January 6th, what do you think?
Oh, I just remember seeing it on the news, like all the riots and stuff. Don't really know what it was about or what happened, though.
How did it make you feel when you saw it?
I don't know. I don't really feel any way about it. People showed their emotion, I guess. Probably in the wrong way, but it happened.
Who here is...
So I think she's a little surprised that people were not more emphatic and disturbed. And it's sort of like, I think there's a little bit of fatigue. Like, it became so much noise. I mean, how many times can you tell the world he is a fascist dictator, right? Like, how many times can you say that until they're like, well, wait a second, is this the little boy who cried wolf? I mean, it was this lawsuit and this lawsuit and this lawsuit. I mean, I do this for a living and I'm trying to keep track of it. And I'm like, whoa, like another one? Here we go. Wait, which one is this? Which one is that? I'd say the team, let's make sure we have these straight now. Okay, this is Letitia James and this is the Fannie Willis down in Georgia and this one wants this and this one wants that. And then, you've got... what's his name there out of DC. And then you get the other guy there in New York. I mean, it's like overwhelming, right? And so at some point, after a while, it becomes like noise. And so they kind of shot themselves in the foot, so to speak. I mean, if they really wanted people to care that much about what a big, awful guy Donald Trump was, maybe they should have timed it better. Maybe they should have focused on one case instead of having a zillion cases. I don't know, but I think Americans came away from that saying, I'm dizzy, I'm exhausted, and all I know is my groceries cost a heck of a lot more than they did back then. I know that it's more expensive to fill my gas tank than it was back then. I know I'm not making as much. No, you're not, because guess what? Real wages, these are wages adjusted for inflation. They're down some 8.6% from when Donald Trump was there. I mean, this is not good, ladies and gentlemen. It's crazy. I was trying to plan, I'm looking ahead to Christmas. Why not, right? I love Christmas. And we usually go on vacation after Christmas, and I'm looking and I'm trying to and I'm like, this is crazy. I know that I stayed in this hotel like in 2019. Okay, I realize it was a while ago, but pre-COVID, right? 2019, this was right before Biden came into office, and it definitely didn't cost that much. And our airfare definitely didn't cost that much. Why has everything gone up, and away? I mean, I can explain it to you, and I've tried to over the many years on this program, first on audio, now on video, but we've talked about this at length. I warned you in August 2020 when the Fed was printing so much money that Donald Trump, who was putting in a second stimulus at the time, was running a certain set of risks. But what I didn't know at the time was that Biden was going to get in there and do a third stimulus check. Give me that stimmy, baby. And then we were going to have all of Congress get involved, and they were going to be like, I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that. And they were going to print all that money, more than we had ever seen in this economy, while simultaneously the Federal Reserve kept the printing press going with interest rates super low. You wonder why we got inflation? You wonder. Okay, Janet Yellen, I'm sick of the transitory talk that you gave us over and over and over again. They all share blame in this. It was a disaster, and we are paying the price. Kamala Harris thinks the answer is to print more money and just give out $25,000 for every new homeowner. And hey, if you came out over the border, we may give you a special sweetener. That's also in her plan. She wants to actually offer more to anybody who is a first-time home buyer. We don't want to get my Irish up, right? We don't want to do that. It's too early for that in the day. Anyway, the point being that Kamala Harris would really be a disaster, pretty much, for the economy. you know who knows this? The folks over at Project 2025. It's sort of crazy to me how this thing got such a bad rap, because I actually really like it. You know, like in my spare time, I do things like read tax policy. I'm real fun to hang out with. Yeah, I read tax policy, and I love reading economic history and stuff about the Federal Reserve and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I'm a little bit of a dork. But one of the reasons I like this particular project is because it's so focused on the economic strength and our national security strength. These two things go hand in hand. So at Project 2025, they're looking at both of these together, and that's why they have a whole plan for education, getting more choice in education. Imagine that. So you don't have to just take whatever the union is going to hand out to you. It's amazing. You would think that Democrats would actually embrace that, right? But they can't, because they're too in bed with the unions themselves, the teachers union specifically. I mean, even Obama got away from that, but not Dr. Jill and not Joe. Joe and Dr. Jill, the teacher, they signed up for that full stop. And so you've got teachers unions that have corrupted the Democrat Party and thus have shortchanged our kids immensely. On top of that, you've got energy policy that's all about handouts for their crony friends and the elites that donate to them. And maybe it happens to help some of those emerging marketplaces that are still stuck on fossil fuels. Because if you look at Joe Biden's son, Hunter was out there doing deals with the natural gas company in China and a natural gas company out of Ukraine. You had an energy company in Romania. I'm like, wait a second. So back here at home, we have to go all green, right? Because they get all the green energy friends that they're giving handouts to too, just sort of officially. And then behind the scenes, you got Hunter taking deals with all these traditional energy companies. Well, maybe it helps those traditional energy companies. If you think about it, you take some of that energy offline. Anyway, I digress. The point being, Project 2025 is pretty good. Donald Trump didn't write it, doesn't have anything to do with it. So he's like, why am I getting attacked for this? Well, they'll attack you for anything. That's what people need to understand. The left will just attack. It's not clandestine. It's not behind the scenes. Go check it out. 25truce.com or go to Project 2025. You can learn more about it yourself. I'll tell you, I like this New York Times Siena poll. I think it's a little strange that they did not actually do a larger poll. They just looked at the Sun Belt. But you look at that Sun Belt, and what does it tell you? Arizona for Trump, Georgia for Trump, and North Carolina now even. Do you believe it? I'm going to go back to my point. What I told you about how the pollsters are telling people, well, you're on a recorded line. And I think a lot of Trump supporters, including a friend of mine that got one of these calls the other day, they just automatically hang up. No, thank you. I don't really want to talk. I'm on a recorded line. So that could be factoring into some of these polls. I'm just amazed that anybody would trust her with the economy in light of all that has happened. It's been a bad run, guys. It's been certainly a very, very bad run. George Soros may be trying to get a last-minute effort in on the advertising front. We talked about this just yesterday. Ladies and gentlemen, George Soros is trying to buy 200 radio stations in 40 markets here in the U.S. And he's trying to get this deal to go through last minute. And some people are kind of raising some questions because they don't really understand why it is that, CFIUS is not involved. That would be the organization that looks at international deals, because it seems that 25% of this company would be held internationally. And then the other thing is, why is the FCC just speeding this through? Like, why would that happen? Well, one member, one commissioner came out just yesterday and was asking these questions because he too was a little bit disturbed. And so far, we don't have any answers. This is the Honorable Carr, part of the FCC Commission, who is really grilling people and saying, listen, I don't understand why this is happening so quickly. Well, does it have anything to do with the race itself? Does it have anything to do with they want to make sure that this deal closes now so that the Soros group, it's a Soros-backed group, can get their hands on those 200 radio stations in 40 different markets? This is the Audacity company that they're trying to buy. I mean, it's certainly a worthwhile question to ask. I suspect it actually may have something to do with they're afraid if Donald Trump gets in, that Donald Trump is going to take issue with it because it is a Soros-backed group. And it is 200 radio stations in 40 different markets. And so there would be some concerns about that, maybe some regulatory concerns, some monopoly concerns, et cetera. So that might be part of the issue. But the people that are really scared about it, they're really scared about the idea that George Soros is actually going to scoop up 200 radio stations and he's going to start advertising on those radio stations ahead of the actual election. Not a lot of time left, but hey, you know what? It could happen. Indeed, it could happen. Have you been following the Sam Bankman-Fried story with crypto? I don't know how many of you guys have been looking at this one, but there's kind of a funny headline that crossed I wanted to share with you because it turns out that Diddy, you know Diddy, right? We don't even want to talk about that. Shall we just not? We'll pretend we did today in today's show. You know what? That's the beauty about doing this little podcast. I don't have to talk about everything, and I don't really want to talk about Diddy, so we won't. Other than the fact that Diddy and Sam Bankman-Fried are now sharing a dorm-style room in a Brooklyn jail. So this poor kid just got a new roommate. Poor kid, whatever. I mean, he defrauded a ton of people. I don't have a ton of sympathy, but, you know, Diddy, who, I don't even want to talk about. Anyway, it's just sort of weird, right? Just kind of just a weird twist of fate. They're in the same bunk room, I guess. It's a dormitory setup. And this is according to officials who prefer to be unknown. Here's the Wall Street Journal piece on it. Everybody was reporting on this last night. It kind of cracked me up. Sean Diddy Combs is now jailed with Sam Bankman-Fried. The hip-hop mogul, according to the Wall Street Journal, is now being held alongside fallen cryptocurrency tycoon Sam Bankman-Fried in a federal jail in New York. It's according to people familiar with the matter. Both men are in the same dormitory-style unit at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, which often houses high-profile inmates. Combs has been jailed since his arrest last week on all those charges, but he was only transferred to Bankman-Fried's unit as of Monday. So, in news you can use or you might want to know, interesting little side note for you. And then, again, I just want to go back to this. I'm seeing how you guys are, you're focused there. You're focused very much on this story that's coming out of Gallup as well. And I do want to sort of close with that because Gallup is just really a tremendous organization in that it has been proven right so many times. And it's just incredible what we're actually seeing in this because overwhelmingly right now the bias is going to Republicans. Let me share with you. So in 2008, when you looked at the Democrat advantage went to Obama, plus 7.2. In 2012, the Democrat advantage, all the things that they look at, again went to Obama by 3.9. So, of course, Obama won both of those elections. And then in 2016, this was the outlier. So they were not correct in 2016 other than with the popular vote, because in 2016, they said the advantage went to the Democrats and to Hillary Clinton by 2.1 points. And yet Donald Trump won in 2016. You advance to 2020 and you see that Biden actually had the advantage pretty significantly. He was up 5 with the Democrat advantage. So that was the lean. And sure enough, he won. Well, fast forward to 2024 to here and now. And the Gallup poll has just come out showing that the Republican advantage is 3, up 3. So where does that leave us? I mean, really, really, really incredible. Some people are saying, what happens if he just wins out the whole popular vote? It could happen. It really could. This could be like Reagan Mondale all over again. Just amazing. We'll see. I think there's a lot happening, and I think there's a lot of very nervous people in Washington, D.C. right now that really see their jobs on the line as being under threat. all the sort of status quo people that really don't like Donald Trump. We'll see if Kamala can deliver anything in this interview, which I suspect is quite scripted and a bit rigged. Tonight on MSNBC, we'll have highlights tomorrow, and we will discuss. Let's keep the conversation going. Let's make sure that you subscribe, that you share, that you like, and I'll see you tomorrow.